Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. By the way, I'm going to correct the mistake on the what is it on the YouTube stuff because we kind of got it a little bit mixed up. As soon as I play the video, we are going to take care of doing that. Anyhow, what is our program about today? What are we going to talk about today? Very important issue, my friends. Very important issues. DSA organizer on Fight for Our Lives. Porter slams McConnell. Anand Girirharadas on Dems muscularity. Look, it is time for us to start getting tough. Americans are suffering. It is time for us to get tough. So let's go ahead and start with this young millennial, a DSA, a Houston DSA organizer. They are putting on a very important event this Saturday. We're going to have a specific blog post after the show attached to it to give some more context. But let's go ahead and listen to Madeleine right now, and then we'll continue the program. We're going to continue a lot of the discussion that we had yesterday. Very important discussion. But let's listen to Madeleine, and then we'll go ahead and move on thereafter. Check this out. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. We're lucky to have a Houston activist, a national activist with us, Madeleine Pelzer.
Hi, Egberto. Great to be with you here today. Yes, my name is Madeleine Pelzer, and I'm a local organizer here with Houston DSA. I currently am working with the Environmental Socialist Committee, and we are really excited about an upcoming event that we have in coordination with larger national efforts.
Well, let me tell you, you guys are doing good work, so let's get busy.
Great, here we go. So on December 12th at 10 a.m., Houston DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America chapter here in Houston, will launch a live-streamed tour of oil and gas company headquarters in Houston, Texas. We'll be demonstrating with banners outside major donors to Lizzie Fletcher and Joe Biden, highlighting their corporate backers who rake in profits while laying off workers. Our goal is to mobilize viewers to sign the letter of notice to Lizzie Fletcher that lists our demands at houstondsa.org/D12. That's D as in Democratic. Our demands include immediate COVID-19 crisis relief, the Healthcare Emergency Guarantee Act, and the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, as well as elements of the Green New Deal, such as a green stimulus that includes public power, and a green jobs guarantee with a just transition for fossil fuel workers. Two of the donors we are focusing our efforts on are Plains All American Pipeline and Chevron. Plains All American is a top Fletcher donor and a Fortune 100 company. And before joining Congress, Lizzie repeatedly defended them in court as a lawyer in anti-worker cases that resembled David versus Goliath, where Lizzie was Goliath. After causing California's Refugio oil spill in 2015, Plains only paid a fraction of total costs of damages and failed to change the practices that caused the damage in the first place. Along with failing to pay and protect workers, Plains used much of its profit this year to buy back $500 million of its own stocks, a practice that effectively gives cash transfers to shareholders at the expense of safety and environmental obligations, as well as the welfare of workers. Chevron, another of Fletcher's major donors, laid off 10 to 15% of its worldwide workforce in 2020, at the same time as they cut a $13 billion deal for risky oil and gas reserves, betting on a tidy profit for investors years from now, while hundreds of Houstonians will lose their jobs next month. After our demonstration in the morning, we will host an online panel discussion at 3 p.m. Central Time titled Green Jobs for All, How the Gulf South Wins a Green New Deal. It will feature community and labor leaders from all across the Gulf South discussing how we build a multi-sector movement to support a just transition for oil and gas workers through a Green New Deal. Our panelists include Christina Tutsun Ramirez and Ryan Pollock from Austin, Texas, Gretchen Tweetmeyer from St. Petersburg, Florida, Troy Robertson from New Orleans, Louisiana, and Nina Morgan from Birmingham, Alabama. We would love it if you would join us to hear from these regional leaders. It was especially important to us to include folks from all areas of our region that are affected by similar climate change related issues like hurricanes and flooding, but also along with rising temperatures and periods of severe drought. With the donor tour in the morning and the panel discussion in the afternoon, this day of action culminates in our request. We have compiled our demands into a letter for people to sign and send to Lizzie Fletcher, showing their support and demanding that Fletcher fight for our lives and not corporate greed and profit. COVID, the climate crisis, and the economic crash are killing us. And without transformative action, these things will only get worse. DSA is building the mass power needed to fight for our lives and win the policies we need to survive. The upcoming DSA campaigns all over the country on December 12th. There'll be more than 25 all over in different regions of our country, aimed to help build a launching pad for a broad movement for the decade of the Green New Deal. We are fighting for full decarbonization by 2030 with green union jobs for all, not deals with Mitch McConnell to doom our economy today and our planet tomorrow. Our healthcare system makes it deadly to go to work. Our economic system makes it deadly to stay home. Scientists don't say we should make small market tweaks that keep fossil fuel CEOs happy. They say we must cut fossil fuel to zero as quickly as possible or face mass extinction. We want a planet that we can live on. The same standard of healthcare found in every other developed country and dignified jobs that provide real economic security. We can't return to business as usual. Business as usual has destroyed our ecosystem, made healthcare unaffordable for tens of millions, and forced working people to choose between risking COVID at work or starving at home. Instead of figuring out how to align with popular demands like the Green New Deal, Medicare for All, and defunding the police to reinvest in care, which reflect real needs of the masses, establishment Dems are blaming the left for their losses. Lizzie Fletcher consistently votes with Republicans on energy policy, and in the 2020 election cycle, she accepted more money from oil and gas campaign companies than any congressional Democrat, with PAC donations in the same league as prominent Republicans like Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn. She tries to paint the Green New Deal and Medicare for All as unrealistic or too extreme. But what's unrealistic is to claim that we can defy all of climate science by burning fossil fuels and still have a livable planet. What's too extreme is to say that if you can't pay tens of thousands of dollars for medical care, then you deserve to die, and that Americans don't deserve the same basic healthcare standards as every other industrialized country. This isn't about the politicians who fight for us. This is about the ones who refuse to. Join us on December 12th as we ask Lizzie Fletcher and politicians all over the country to fight for our lives.
Wow. The way you said that, I think every single activist need to get out there and make every American an activist. What's extreme is not the policies that you are supporting. What is extreme is the policies that are out there now that's killing us. I mean, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was utterly beautiful. And it's great to see those who are coming behind us, who are the ones that we are dependent on saving this damn planet.
We gotta save it.
These darn people don't understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is essential. Let me ask you one thing real quickly, because where exactly, though, for the people that are here in Houston, where are they going to meet? And I imagine you're going to be masked up and all of that.
Yeah, so we have decided to make our in-person action quite a small group of folks and really focus on the live stream. So you can find our live stream of the action at the DSA Facebook page. So that's just Google Houston DSA on Facebook or search for it. But because of the rising coronavirus cases, we are going to all be masked up, of course, but we are not trying to host a mass rally or anything. Right. Because we just really want to keep everyone safe. And we hope that you join us for the live stream. the online panel discussion, and then ultimately send that letter to Lizzie Fletcher.
We are going to make sure to popularize that live stream because this is so important. Look, Madeleine, is there anything else that you want to say before we close this out?
I think that's it. I just really want people to understand that we need our politicians, especially the ones who claim to be on our sides, to actually fight for us. And we can't get complacent after the elections are over. We have to keep reminding them that we're paying attention. We need them. And, you know, Lizzie Fletcher is on the Natural Gas Caucus. She's on the Oil and Gas Committee. She has power outsized of her sort of stature in Congress, and she can do this for us. We just need her to pay attention to us instead of the corporate greed.
Madeleine, thank you very much, first of all, for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being such an effective spokesperson, and you keep up doing the good work. We're in good hands.
Thank you so much, Egberto. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Now, was Madeleine great or what? Is that the kind of spokesperson we need for the future or not? Of course it is. I mean, and that is how change is going to come. Our generation we've done some work. These guys are serious with the work that they're doing. And I tell you what, the Houston DSA and on the DSAs that have been around all over the country, these are some people that are very, very engaged, and they are on the ground, and they are in neighborhoods that just bona fide Democrats and Republicans refuse to go in, and they are there on the ground. They're doing great work, and that thing that they're going to have on Saturday, I'm going to have the write-up and a press release later on in their own blog that I'm going to popularize. But I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're going to continue some of the conversation that we had yesterday, but beforehand, I told you I was going to play you the Rachel Maddow video. For those of you who are Donald Trump supporters, we have this is a public service announcement from Rachel Maddow to you, because we love you and we don't want people to continue to hurt you, to use you, to abuse you. So from me, or rather from Rachel Maddow to you.
The president, it turns out, did not spend any of his own money on his re-election campaign this year. Why would he, when he's got your uncle on the hook, right? New filings that the Trump campaign is actually bragging about show that they've brought in over $200 million after the election in mostly small-dollar fundraising, almost exclusively via the ginned-up Trump didn't lose the election fake voter fraud stuff, right? This fake Trump election defense fund that they've used to beg for money from Trump supporters all over the country. There isn't actually a financial entity called the Trump Election Defense Fund. They've just used that as a branding mechanism. And when you give money thinking that you're giving it to the Trump Election Defense Fund, some of that money just goes to the Republican Party for whatever they want to use it for. But the bulk of it goes into something that they call a leadership PAC for Donald Trump. And a leadership PAC is definitely the best kind of PAC if you're this kind of president, because that money, again, more than $200 million raised and counting after the election, that money going into his leadership PAC, that's his money. That's his money now. That is money that he can literally spend on anything he wants. He can use it to just pay himself directly. He can just convert it into income. He can use it to pay for his living expenses, literally including food and travel and haircuts and stuff. This just becomes his bank account. This election fraud scam that they are running has turned out to be a way for Donald Trump to actually raise more money than when he was legitimately using donations to run for office. He's no longer running for office. He's now running to get you to give him money for his leadership PAC because that's now his money. He now gets to keep what he raises. What a better deal this is for him. I mean, back in 2016, he did actually spend some of his own money trying to get elected. He didn't spend as much as he said he was going to, but he did put some of his own money into his election effort in 2016. He spent none of his own money trying to get reelected in 2020. And we now know that by losing his reelection effort and running this scam where he claims he was robbed and he needs your help, by milking all this money out of his supporters with this claim, since the election, he has finally figured out perhaps the most direct way to monetize this life, to massively enrich himself through his purported career in politics. Financially, he's way better off losing and complaining than he would be by winning and actually having to govern for 4 more years. And, you know, if foreign adversaries benefit by America losing its faith and capacity for democracy from here on out because of him pushing these claims, well, what does he care? Do you have any idea how much money this scam is worth?
Exactly. This scam is making him a lot of money. So again, this is to the right wingers. I hope you're listening, that your hard-earned dollars, you work just as hard as anybody else. Whenever you send $1 to Trump, most of that money, if it's under $8,000, goes into Trump's pocket, and a few pennies go into the RNC. So what you're doing is taking your hard-earned dollar to support a swindler, somebody who cares nothing about you, and you still believe that you are going to get a win out of Trump. But my question to you is this: what does a win out of Trump get you? What does it get you? Remember, the people who are trying to fight to make sure that during this pandemic you'll get something to survive on, it's not Trump and McConnell. These guys say, we are going to make a bet. In fact, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to let Representative Katie Porter talk about what Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, and these others are doing in lieu of giving Americans the support they need during a pandemic. Let's just go ahead and get it off to Mademoiselle Katie Porter and O'Donnell.
Congressman Katie Porter just couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't take what Mitch McConnell is doing, and she explained it all on Twitter today. She wrote, "When I came to Congress, I knew I had a responsibility to pull back the curtain for the American people and expose corruption in real time. So I'm filling you in on Senator McConnell's attempts over the last 8 days to tank a bipartisan COVID relief bill. You may have heard that Democrats and Republicans have agreed upon spending $900 billion to fund another round of small business loans, support hospitals and essential workers, and help the 10 million people who lost their jobs through no fault of their own. Everyone at the negotiating table, including Senate Republicans, has agreed to a compromise except one. Mitch McConnell is refusing to bring it to the floor unless it wipes away all COVID-related lawsuits filed that allege injury or death due to corporate negligence. These lawsuits represent the worst of the worst examples of disregard for human life, cases filed on behalf of nursing home patients and grocery store workers who died because the company in charge of keeping them safe prioritized cutting costs over protecting them. The same McConnell who said that President Trump is 100% within his rights to pursue baseless lawsuits alleging election fraud is now refusing to pass urgently needed relief unless it strips those same rights from the most vulnerable among us. This must be exposed. We might break a record again tomorrow. We might have more than 3,046 deaths from coronavirus tomorrow. Is that Mitch McConnell will not cry. Congressman Porter, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Take us through what it's been like for you in the House, having passed COVID relief bills, massive COVID relief bills, months ago that have been ignored by Mitch McConnell.
You know, it's not just what I've been going through as a member of Congress. I just want to see what I've been going through personally. You know, you talked at the beginning about Mitch McConnell not crying today. Well, I cried today because my grandmother is dying of COVID-19. And she's dying because of people not taking responsibility for this pandemic. So it's just disgusting to me that Mitch McConnell will not allow a bipartisan compromise to move forward because he wants to give away goodies to huge corporations. I'm getting phone calls from constituents who've lost loved ones. I'm hearing stories about workers who are scared to go to work because they don't have enough PPE. I'm putting food into trunks of cars to help people at food banks. This is the epidemic in America. It's an epidemic of COVID. It's an epidemic of hunger. It's an epidemic of housing insecurity. You know what it's not? an epidemic. It's not an epidemic of lawsuits. And any effort by Mitch McConnell to suggest that that is happening is flat out lying to the American people. There are more lawsuits, baseless lawsuits brought by Trump about this election than there have been medical malpractice or personal injury lawsuits relating to COVID-19. So Mitch McConnell is in surge. This is not a problem. This is simply about giving his corporate donors what they want. So when I listen to you talk about Steve Smith, and he's talking about this conspiracy to keep, his words, a conspiracy to keep in power, I think it's really important to peel back. Keep who in power? And the answer is the nation's largest corporations who want a green light. They basically want a license to kill without any liability. Right here in Orange County, we had 46 workers who got sick at a single call center owned by AT&T. 2 of those workers died. And yet, Mitch McConnell wants to let AT&T off the hook for having to do anything to try to keep those workers safe. If Mitch McConnell's rule were to go forward, then companies would not have to provide PPE. They wouldn't have to follow state public health guidelines. And if they ignored all those rules to put profit ahead of people and people died as a result, they'd get off the hook. That's what Mitch McConnell is holding up relief to hungry people, people facing eviction over.
We understand what's going on here. I mean, it's pretty simple. You remember those meat packing plants where you had all those workers get sick? You remember that a lot of the supervisors were betting how many of them would die, how many of them would get ill. You remember those bets that they were doing in the background, all these supervisors that keep themselves safe but have all the workers right next to each other. In other words, the meat packing plants did not assume that since we had this virus, let's protect the environment that they're working in to mitigate the spread of the virus. None of that. So you're going into their environment to work. You're making money for them. At the same time, they're ensuring that you have the potential of dying for working for them. Well, if a company is found to be maliciously or irresponsibly doing that, the right thing is for people to sue them. Sue them for putting their lives at danger. So what Porter wanted to say specifically, and she said it quite nicely in her tweet, is you went out there and you said Donald Trump should have the right to search, even if it's unlikely. Donald Trump has the right to take people to court to try to win an election that he's justifiably lost in a landslide. Donald Trump lost the election by $8 million. Yet we are humoring Donald Trump by using the court systems to sue and sue and sue. McConnell doesn't want to stop that. That is okay, right? But McConnell wants to stop the average person who works for a company who hurts them, and somehow he will not allow a package. He will not allow a relief package to go through Congress unless you tell the corporations, okay, you can kill your employees if you want to, and we won't do anything about it, and we will make it illegal for the people that you have harmed to sue you. So Donald Trump can have frivolous lawsuits, but lawsuits that matter, you can't have. Does that make any sense? And for my good right-wing friends that are listening, again, forget about ideology, forget about everything. If you work for a company that injured you, do you want to have the ability to sue that company so that you can recover what has been taken from you? Yes or no? Would you like to be held hostage that if you don't give these guys the right to kill, you cannot get the food that you need to eat? Is that something worth fighting for? Well, you know what? We're going to see whether the Democrats decide to take it to the limits and fight for these issues, because it is very important. Anyhow, we are at the halfway mark, so let's go ahead and do our 2-minute sprint here. Those of you that are listening on YouTube, please consider either sending us a super chat by hitting and there, or go ahead and join our posse. Whatever case you're doing, please subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to our YouTube channel, of course, is free, but if you want to be of assistance, there's another button there called Join. If you join that button, you'll help us defray the cost of providing this program on a daily basis during the week. Anyhow, additionally, if you are not on YouTube, but let's say you're on another platform, Periscope or Facebook Live or Twitch, you can go ahead and just click on this link here, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. If you go there, that'll take you directly to our YouTube subscription or YouTube join, if you will. And that, again, helps us out quite a bit. But, we have other membership forms as well. You can join us by becoming a patron. How do you become a patron? That's the link there, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. And of course, we all take PayPal, and that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Anyhow, before we get into the subject that I said we wanted to look over from yesterday, what I want to do is play you a piece by Anand Girirharadas. Anand Girirharadas had some very, very important message that I think every single Democratic politician should be checking out. Let's go ahead and play Anand, and then we'll take it on the other side.
So while Congress is squabbling, many Americans, they're having to turn to food banks to feed their families.
I was working at a food pantry, actually.
And here you are now getting the food.
Yes.
And you were at one point distributing the food.
Correct.
You can live off your credit cards for so long. Your bank account, your savings account only lasts so long. Your bank account only lasts so long.
If it weren't for these sites, would you be able to get food on the table?
Not really.
It has been nearly 9 months since the government last agreed to provide some relief, if any, to the Americans. I want to bring in Anand Girirharadas. It's so incredibly sad to see that woman being asked about having to get food at a food bank and getting emotional about it, understanding what Americans are going through right now. So many people are desperate, afraid they're going to lose their housing. Their lights are going to get shut off. They're not going to have heat come Christmas time, just 2 weeks away. And yet you have Washington fighting over whether or not they're going to provide a stimulus check, which it seems like at this point is not even in the plans, or extended unemployment.
Yeah, I mean, it made me tear up about 3 seconds before your camera was going to turn on me. And it was so interesting while waiting for the camera to turn on, listening to Nancy Pelosi, listening to Washington technical talk, which is so removed from the basic reality that this is a country awash in pain right now. Look at that woman's face. Listen to her. There are millions of people she speaks for. And we're having these technocratic conversations about committees and this and that. And I understand, I mean, the real blame here is Mitch McConnell, is the Republicans, is the president, is a party that does not want to help people, that is working on one side to actually make sure the pandemic kills as many people as possible. That seems to be the logical consequence of their policy. And then to make sure that all the people who manage to survive it, despite their policy, suffer economically and beyond. But it is also the case that Democrats are not meeting this moment with the muscularity required, even the rhetorical muscle required. Why aren't we hearing thundering speeches from Joe Biden, from Pelosi, from Schumer, making this case in a way that bends public opinion, forces Republicans into a corner? This is not about Medicare for all right now. We're not talking about sweeping social policy. It's not about, do we reduce our footprint of empire around the world? This is emergency relief in the worst crisis since the Great Depression. And we're having this little Washington committee talk instead of talk of muscularly dealing with the restoration of some balance in people's lives, some stability, food on people's tables. And You have word coming out yesterday or today that in Joe Biden's meeting with civil rights leaders this week, he was skeptical of the claims people make about his executive authority. He is not as comfortable wielding that executive authority as others are comfortable with him wielding. This is not a time for milquetoast. Watch that woman again. Watch that woman again. Watch millions like her. This is a time for dramatic, sweeping action.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form. Exactly. This is a time for real action. So here is my question right now to everybody. What is it going to take for all of us as a country to be able to see the Republican type of ideology and what it is doing and has done to our country, not only fiscally, not only ideologically, but actually morally? Because what they have done, and it didn't start with Trump. You know, Trump was just the bold face of honesty. And imagine that I'm using the term honesty with Trump. Trump brought the honesty out of the evil that this particular party, leadership of this party, I'm not going to put it on the people. He brought out the honesty of the evil of the leadership of what this party represents. It is so important that we understand that. Now, before I go ahead and recognize people and before or whatever, there's a new person. I don't think I've seen Crink before. But here's what I'm going to do. The phone lines are on, Crink. If you are willing to have a civil discussion to tell us what you really think is the issue or the issues and maybe what affects progressives, liberals, I would love to hear from you on The Voice and put you on air. The number is, as you can see, and I'm going to put the number in the chat as well. And you can either come through the link or through the chat. The number is 346-248-7799. And the ID to get in is 254-600-9091. That's a telephone number. But of course, you can click on the link that's right in there. You are saying quite a bit on here. I'll be more than happy for you to bring you on, Crink, to specify in an intelligent manner why you think somehow we want more of your taxes than what Republicans are taking and actually misusing. But I'd love to hear from you. So either Crink or Tank 28, feel free to call in. As long as you are civil and speak intelligently, we will have the people hear your voice. So give us a call. You have a lot to say in the chat room. Come on air. Let's see what you have to say. 1 point at a time. We'll be more than happy to give you. That's one thing with politics done right. Politics done right gives everybody a voice and makes and challenges everybody who wants to talk. So the floor is yours, Crink. The floor is yours, Tank 28. Let's hear what you have to say. But anyway, until any one of these guys decide to get the courage to come and have an intellectual conversation, let's continue with what we discussed yesterday. Yesterday, we were talking about water. And I did a piece on water, and I actually cleaned it up for the to make it its own standalone piece that I did. And I'm going to post that. Actually, I think I posted that already. But here's the deal. What I was trying to tell people yesterday is that our economic system depends on scarcity, meaning on things being scarce. And if things are not naturally scarce, like gold is really scarce, but gold really has no use. We have given gold an implied value. But the truth of the matter is gold means absolutely nothing. You can't eat gold. Gold cannot solve a medical problem. Gold can't do any of that kind of stuff. So we just decided to make gold mean something. But ultimately, if you're starving, gold can't help you. Platinum can't help you. None of that stuff can help you. So the only thing that really has value are scarce things that you really need to survive. And the only scarce thing that you need to survive, things are like water, food, etc., right? So think about this. If you are a corporation, if you are a part of this capitalist system, the only way you are going to make a whole lot of money for doing very little is to create a scarce resource and then have that resource mined by people who believe somehow you have some reason to give them a job, etc., etc. And that's the kind of economy that we have. And yesterday we used water as an example. We are surrounded by water. All sides of the United States of America is surrounded by water. Great Lakes up north, rivers throughout the system, big oceans on the south, on the east, on the west, water all over the place. Do we have deserts? Of course we have deserts. Those are in select areas. Can we get water to those deserts? Of course we can. We did with the Colorado River and many other rivers. And it wasn't all that expensive because government built the dams and all these things to make better use of the water. But then the capitalists got involved. Wait a minute. We can make some money by making all this water scarce, or by not having utility projects, by not having utility projects that bring all these things in. What about creating these huge desalination plants and creating our own rivers from the ocean? Is that a possibility? Of course it is. Of course it is. Why haven't we done it? Because it's socialist. We don't want the government to build that kind of infrastructure. We don't. Let's see, a man with so much to tell us about real news and yet silent. I know, it is funny, isn't it? Huh? It is funny. It is so funny. Anyhow, the Colorado is drying up. 2025 water shortage in the Southwest start. Yeah, it's funny because if you take a look at the length, right? If you take a look at the length, it is amazing how much the Colorado, the Lake Powell and Lake Mead has fallen. A whole bunch. But anyhow, the story that I'm really trying to tell is there is no real water shortage, but we create this shortage so that people would pay for this new resource so that somebody can capitalize on something. These money guys just need something to represent an instrument. When it's gold, that represents something. When it's water, that represents something, right? They just use something that you can grasp on and call it something of value. Like I said, gold has no intrinsic value except, again, if you're going to use it for certain types of processes that require a metal that is not very reactive, etc., etc., etc. That's all. But otherwise, it has no value. So what do? We go ahead and create that value. We go ahead and we allow these corporations to create financial instruments that are going to do what again? That monetize that. And what does that do to all of us in general? It takes away our disposable income. It's just a method. It's just a bridge that is used to transfer your money to the top. Because remember, if water is not really scarce, everybody has it. Everybody can use it, right? Nobody can make any money off of that cheap resource. Make water scarce. And how do you make water scarce? Several ways to make water scarce. Prevent governmental projects that will bring water in on the cheap. Call it socialist if you try to do projects like that. And then water in those deserts are scarce, so you have to now start some way to use supply and demand, which makes the water price go up, right? Or the other option is to pollute that water. Make sure that there are not regulations that forces all of us to have clean rivers, clean oceans, clean lakes. And if they're not clean, for you to drink water, for you to have potable water, you have to buy it. You have to get it at a more expensive level. These are all the tricks of the trade. And these are not conspiracies. These are things that are happening right now. Not conspiracies. These are things that are happening right now. And Crink, if you want to call in and talk about it, instead of hiding behind a keyboard, if you want to have an intelligent conversation, give us a call. You're talking a lot back there. Oh, it's socialist, it's this. It's conspiracy. Give us a call. Let's have an intelligent conversation. But you won't. You know why? Because you guys are simply talking things you don't really understand, know about, or you're just parroting for the plutocracy. The funny thing about it is that the plutocracy cares nothing about you. Politics done right, and our posse, and our PDR posse, cares more about you than the people that you're sweating tears for, the people that you're trying to defend. That's a fact. Okay, so that is what I want to say. Now, unless people ask all the specific question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our list and welcome everybody aboard. Tank 28, welcome aboard. Paul Fleming, ATL, checking in. Let's see, Tank 28, again, Bridge MCP says hi to Paul. Let's continue down. Norman Reynolds, my brother. How you doing, hermano? I hope you're not eating all that chocolate fudge and all of that, because you know what? You're going to make me break quarantine and jump out there and say, hey, throw that fudge. Go out in front of your house and say, okay, Norman, throw that fudge. I'll catch it. Okay, let's see. Bridge MCP. She has 2 special links for me to read today. I'll read it thereafter. Bridge. Coming down, Bruce Pollard. How you doing, Bruce? You know, Bruce, you should have called in and spoke to some of these guys who don't really believe what I'm saying about things. Maybe they'll listen to our resident physicist here. You know, I don't know. Let's see who else is here. Krink, krink. Oh my God, Madeline has a humongous, what? What is, I don't know what WAP is. Somebody can help me there. I don't know what that is. But whatever the case is, Madeleine is such a smart woman. She is the spokesperson that we are going to need throughout this next generation, because she knows the material and she speaks very well. Love that young lady. Excellent young lady right there. Okay, scrolling down. I think I got Krink Krink already. Let's see who else is here. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. Tank and Krink like they wanted to just take over the chat room. Bridge, I think you're going to have to kind of, keep them at bay. Okay, Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard, brother. He says, Brandon Bernard was 18 when he was part of a gang that committed the crimes, and while he was participant, in the kidnapping, he was not the killer, but he's facing a death sentence as part of the felony murder charge he was convicted for. The other participants were 17, got off with lesser juvenile offenses. A difference in age of months put Brandon Bernard on death row. It's his age, but it's a lot deeper than his age, Michael Rudnin. But you know that. I'm very sure you know that. His execution is happening today. Sad, sad, sad. Okay, Michael Rudnin says, what the hell? Did we just go through another 9/11 today? We are going to have 9/11s for the next several days, because what we're going through now are the deaths as a result of people not doing things right over the Thanksgiving holiday. I had to go see my daughter over the Thanksgiving holiday. Before the Thanksgiving holiday. I gave you guys a picture of how I looked. It was crazy. I had all my masks on and my shield on and everything. I wasn't gonna play, and I thank the spirits that it held and I didn't get the disease. So thank the spirits. Bridge MCP said that's problem with the bill. No liability for companies like meat packers. Exactly. And those people that defended it drives me crazy. Fleming says, when I was a child in the 70s, my cousin got 25 years to life for a crime he didn't commit, and no one was killed. When I attended college, I would visit. Wow. Where was that? Was that in Atlanta, Paul? Wow. The duck that quacks put the question, what specifically is fake? They don't have an answer, duck that quacks, you know that. Kathy Pascal, welcome aboard, Kathy. Love Kathy. Kathy, another one of our great supporters of Politics Done Right. Love you, young lady. Has the world gone mad? These senators do not represent the common American, and yet they are re-elected over and over again because they have good spin machines. And because, let me tell you, that is why we do what we do, Kathy. That is why we do what we do. Because in as much as this video will eventually get to about between 5,000 and 10,000 people. And there are other people that do the same thing as well. And that is how we have to fill the internet space with truths so that we get around McConnell's machine, so that we get around all these guys that are out there putting misinformation. Because you have guys like Crink and Tank 28, that these guys, they will never see it because they are looking from I don't know how to say it, until they get some sort of a damage, they will continue to just be, tape recorders for these crooks. But a lot of other people see our interaction. Term limits, we'll talk about term limits another time, Breach. I have some thoughts on term limits. Let's see. Your boy lost 35 to 30. But you know what? You should have said duck that quacks. He didn't only lose 35 out of 37 cases. The 2 that he won were marginal wins. But worse, he even lost in front of the judges that he put there. The crazy part is they keep sending people to Congress that work against our best interests. And their own best interests too, sir. Okay, Crink says, I don't need government money. I'm not a liberal snowflake crybaby. You are living off of government money, Crink. You are living off of government money. The fact that I can see you here on the internet, you are living off of government money. But you know what's the problem? Nobody told you. So they allowed you to look foolish as you think you're not living off of government money, even though all the stuff that you're using now is based on what the government did. So Crink, please read some of our books. Just maybe it will prevent you from making a little something out of yourself. Okay, Crink, please do. It may help you, brother. It may help you. Paul Fleming, thank you, brother. My wife and I went to food banks for friends and family and distributed the food for Thanksgiving, and we'll do it again for Christmas. I always knew you're a good guy. Always knew you're a good guy. Blessed be unto thee. You know, I wanted to go and work the food bank some, but I mean, I work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week doing this. But I still wanted to at least spend 2-3 hours out there just because I think it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to try to do that before Christmas. I think we should all make the time to just go out and do something like that. Thank you very much, Paul Fleming. You're a blessing to humanity, sir. You are a blessing to humanity. And all of us should take heed on what Paul's done. And wherever you can, if you can do it safely, do it as well. Hey, the duck that quacks can't report any fraud. If you know a fraud, report it. There's no fraud, Paul, and that's why they can't do it. Okay. Let me continue driving down. Michael Rudnin says, if it's morality right to allow your fellow citizens to suffer from hunger, I'd argue no. Our nation has broken prior. Our nation, yeah, and the problem is we don't have a democracy. If we had a democracy, the right people would be in office right now because the votes were for the right people. It's just the proportion that you have to win as a good person is so much larger than the proportion the bad people have to win. It's a flaw in the Constitution, a constitutional flaw. Okay, let's see. Conspiracy theories. Nah, I'm not even going to touch that, Crink. And, let me tell you something. If I thought putting on a clown mask would bring you to talk so that Americans can hear you, I would put the clown mask on. I really would. Because, you see, for me, it's not about me. It's not about what you think about me. It's not even about me looking foolish. If I could make a difference looking foolish by letting you come on air because I have a mask on, and if I put a mask on, you'll come, I'd do it. Because then the right-wingers who listen to the nonsensical things that you write would suddenly see what you're all about. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will look for a clown mask. Or let me ask you the question, Crink. If I put a clown mask, is it a promise of yours to come on air? That's the question I have for you. Because like I said, it's not about me. It's about us changing minds, and it's about us trying to make this a better world. So answer me, Crink. If I get a clown mask, and everybody's going to see it here, do you promise then to come on the show? Yeah, Egberto Willies, after he calls, put on a mask and knows, ha ha ha. Look, Breach, let me tell you something. if doing all kind of crazy things would change this world and change how some people think, I'd do it. You know, a friend of mine told me, I'm not going to allow him to mess with my dignity. And my thing is like, you know, I think I think you have more dignity if you do something out of character and get a positive result, don't you think? So yeah, come on, Crink Crink. Tell me if I get a mask, if you'll definitely come on. Did you disappear? Hey, Tank 28, isn't Crink Crink your buddy? So tell him, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Anyhow, we are coming close to the end, and the truth of the matter is I have a splitting headache right now. You know what? You're right, Breach. Get the call first. What I'll do is I'll get the mask, show him the mask, say, come on. When you come on, then I'll put the mask on. You're right. Thank you. You're such a smart. See, I got the smartest people that follow this show, man. Smartest people follow this show, man. You know, smartest people. Anyhow, folks, please remember, go ahead. You see the book on the screen. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors. Please go get the book at Amazon. There's the Amazon link for the book. But if you want to cut out the middleman, you can buy it directly from our store. And here is this is our Politics Done Right store that I just put there. You can buy our books and all of that there. But you can buy our T-shirts and all that good stuff. And I need to go ahead and get that link. You can get, we have T-shirts at that store as well. But we have a different set of T-shirts at our YouTube store. And let me go ahead and see if I can find the link to our YouTube store. Merchandise, here's it. Go ahead. You see, if you're on YouTube, you can see the rack right now. But if you're not, here is the YouTube store. I think that is it right there. That is a YouTube store. So consider supporting us via our YouTube. Either click that join button on YouTube to become a supporter. Under the video, and you can become a supporter on Facebook as well by just clicking support now on Facebook. There are a lot of ways to support us. What we're doing is important work. What we're doing is trying to change minds. And change minds not for the sake of changing minds, but changing minds to make America a better place. So with that, I think I'm going to check out of here. Let's see, Breach says, when you have no headache, check link I sent to me has to do with, yes, I will go ahead and check all the links that you placed in here today. In fact, as soon as I get off, I'm going to go take the Tylenol, and then I'm going to come back up and read the links that you put in there, Breach MCP. Anyway, thank you so kindly for being here with me. I know that there are millions of places that you can be. I could not do this without you. I promise you that. I've been doing this for over 10 years. And over the last few years, we have seen the importance of having this and many more. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.